Welcome to Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio, live coverage of the NextGen 2011 Charity Conference. We're in Lower Manhattan at the Tribeca Performing Arts Center. My guest now is Eric Saperston. His film is The Journey, which is based on a trip that he took around the country, cold calling CEOs, entertainment icons, authors, artists, global leaders, and taking them out for a cup of coffee and conversation. Eric Saperston, welcome to the show.
Tony, glad to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. You must have learned a lot. And I listened to you when you were on stage, and the one that caught me was one of the people that you spoke to was a Volkswagen mechanic. Because you were driving a Volkswagen. Why don't you tell us a little about your story, and then maybe we can get into what the Volkswagen mechanic shared.
You bet. I graduated from college and decided I was going to take a year off and follow the Grateful Dead and work a ski season in Aspen. And challenged by my mentor to make the trip more meaningful, I decided that when I wasn't following the Dead and working a ski season, I was going to call up some of the most powerful people in the world and take them out for a cup of coffee. And as John Steinbeck, who wrote a book called Travels with Charlie, said, sometimes you take a trip and sometimes the trip takes you. And this trip has taken me well beyond what I even could have imagined. I spent 4 years on the road. I picked up 3 other travelers. We learned how to use a video camera. We shot over 500 hours of footage, interviewed over 200 of the most extraordinary people on the planet, ended up getting a development deal with Walt Disney Studios, turned our journey into an award-winning feature film that played in theaters and put us on the Today Show, CNN, New York Times, and launched us into an international speaking career. And
brought you to Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio also.
Which
you didn't mention that in your credentials.
Well, that's because I was just about ready to say that, because that's now.
It's understood.
It's just the evolution of this journey has now brought me to this moment,
Thank
which
you
is
so much.
equally as amazing as the other moment.
Who was the mentor in your life?
I met a college professor who has gone on to be one of the top leadership consultants in the world, Dr. Tony Smith. And when he was getting his master's thesis, I ended up walking into his speech communication class, and that meeting ended up changing the trajectory of my life. And he was the one who stood for me to be greater than I thought I could be.
You interviewed, you sat with Jimmy Carter, and I know Jerry Garcia as well, but I'm really intrigued by the Volkswagen mechanic. Because you mentioned him just as an aside and on the stage, and I'm really interested in what he or she shared with you.
When you have a 1971 Volkswagen bus, one of the nice things about that is you get to meet lots of Volkswagen mechanics on a journey. And, the breakdowns are super important and valuable. And, when I met this mechanic, the thing that really struck me is that the journey was never about CEOs or necessarily becoming financially successful, although I met many people who are financially successful. The definition that we carried with us for the criteria in which we wanted to meet people was, are they getting up in the morning excited and going to bed fulfilled? And this particular Volkswagen mechanic that we met in Houston was just, he ran his shop like the Ritz-Carlton. You sat down, he gave you a cup of coffee, he really made sure that you were well taken care of, and I was just moved by his passion. He loved what he did, and it was really who he was being that really struck me. It just reminded me that you don't have to. And I guess that really relates to the nonprofit world, is that it's success is what you measure. It's what you determine as successful. A lot of people think that success is something in the future, where if you accomplish enough things, you do enough things, that someday you'll be successful. But I tend to believe that success is with you right now, doing today and every day excellently whatever it is you're doing. And then sooner or later you may get a reward which you may interpret as success, but it's only a reward for doing excellently whatever it is you say you're going to do. And this Volkswagen mechanic really just showed up with that level of excellence and compassion, and it was really moving.
And recognizing too that success isn't from external sources. We're, as you said, most people are enjoying success right now, just not recognizing it. But it doesn't have to be recognized externally and brought to you, but that we're in it right now.
Totally. One of the things that I chew on all the time is that success is what we measure. Right, so my invitation to people is always to get really clear about what your measure of success is, and don't let other people dictate what success means to you. So, for example, I'm a big fan of the hero's journey, and if you go down a path that's uniquely your own, by definition, you can't be successful and less retroactively. And what I mean by that is that if you're a real estate agent and this year you sell 13 homes and then next year you sell 15 homes, well, we can measure that you're 3 homes more successful than you were last year, and everybody gets that. But if you are on a heroic journey in which you are following your instincts and you're going down a path nobody has trod before, then you can't be successful unless retroactively, because there's nothing to measure. Because the people who love you are trying to measure your success, and right now it's unclear what you're doing, and so even the people closest to you, the ones who love you the most, will try to guide you off of that path because they want to guide you to a place they can actually understand and measure. So for me, for example, when I was talking about, I was traveling around the country and I was telling people that I was going to call up the most powerful people in the world and take them out for coffee, nobody understood what that was going to turn out to be or what that was going to, and so everyone tried to advise me against it. Now, flash forward a few years later and my movie's playing in theaters and I'm on the Today Show, then people go, oh, that's what you're doing. Now you bring back the elixir, you bring back the goods, the community goes, oh, now we see, oh, I believed in you all the time. But it's that space in between, and I think that space in between prevents many people from living extraordinary lives because people are afraid of being judged and misunderstood and ostracized. But I think if you're on the hero's journey, that is just par for the course.
Were there categories of sort of lessons that you learned? Things fit into some generalized lessons that you share with people from your conversations?
Yeah, after meeting 200 of the most extraordinary people on the planet, I mean, obviously people have asked me to try to come up with some of the commonalities of successful people, and
so my question just is you've heard it a million times. Nothing. It's not at all insightful. It's really not much to it.
Your question is
a shallow question.
Your question is equally as profound. If I thought about a couple of salient messages that I've learned from the people that I've met. One, it's super important to trust your instincts, to meditate, to be quiet, to listen to that voice inside and trust it. When you ask people oftentimes a question, they go, I don't know, and then my follow-up is, well, if you did know, what would it be? It's like you're ultimately the journey is you against you, and to get really clear about what you're up to in the world. And trust yourself. I think another lesson I learned from these amazing people is to be humble and to ask for help. That if you can figure out what the what is, then go seek out wise people and get the how.
And I think on stage you shared with the audience that was one of the primary lessons, that seeking help. It's not about ego, it's about the people you bring around you.
Yeah, I think that it prevents people from living extraordinary lives if they get their ego out of whack. I've done so many things in my life, and I don't really have any credentials to do any of them. And so, I'm very clear about what my vision is, and then sought out people much smarter than me to help guide me. And that people love to do that. If you're passionate and you're clear, you can get access to the most powerful people in the world that will give you insights, direction, support, money, resources, but you have to be willing to ask for help.
Yeah, I interrupted you. Go ahead. There were some common lessons you wanted to share.
Another common lesson is finish what you start. We're a culture of easy starters but very few finishers, and tenacity is a great value. And
even if your friends are advising you against that path,
it depends. I guess there's another insight there too, and that is be really careful on who you're taking counsel from. There are a lot of cynics out there, and people who have gone and have not pursued what they believe is their higher purpose, and out of good intentions, they'll try to guide you away from that. Right. I didn't listen to just anybody. I went and talked to people who were getting up in the morning excited and going to bed fulfilled, who had been successful over multiple generations, who have done extraordinary things. And when they told me to jump, I'd say, how high? But if I met somebody else, and that doesn't mean that cynics can't offer you a great insight. I took insight from everybody. I could be on a bus, and all of a sudden, a city bus, and somebody offered me a great pearl, and I'd be like, thank you. And as a counterpoint to this, is the cynics and naysayers are some of my best allies, because I'm an optimist and I tend to look for what's possible, and the people who are cynics are looking for what's not possible, and oftentimes if you're open to hearing them, they could point out something that you've missed and also make that part of your plan. So I'm a sponge. I listen to everybody, but then again come back to my own intuition and then choose.
I love your inspiration to follow what you believe in, take advice, but stick to that path. I mean, tenacity, the passion, the sort of things that you got when you invited the audience to yell out. What does it take to be successful, or to, I don't remember how you phrased it, but achieve, or what? And what did you ask the audience to?
What separates those who achieve from those who do not?
Yeah.
And the audience rattled off 10 answers, from courage to communication to having a vision, and the differentiating factor for me was what separates those who achieve from those who do not is in direct proportion to one's ability to ask others for help.
Ask others for help. I'm going to leave there. All right, Eric.
Tony, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for letting me sit. And for anybody that your listeners are interested, we have a website which is www.liveinwonder.com, LIVEINWONDER, and there's tons of videos, and we have a new book on Live in Wonder, and we have our movie The Journey, and we'd love to get a message from you. There's a contact us button, and right now we have a campaign to inspire the world to live in wonder. So if you're out there living in wonder, please let us know who you are.
Eric Saperston, his film is The Journey. There's much more to his story, and you'll find it at liveinwonder.com. This is Tony Martignetti, Nonprofit Radio, coverage of the NextGen Charity Conference 2011. I want to thank Eric Saperston again for sitting down with us.
Tony, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, brother.
My privilege.